How are you doing today? It's going to get a little too serious, and I thought this was a roast today, so you can bring the roasters back here. I'm substituting for Quint Spitzer. When I first met Coach Menier, I was a 95-pound little football player, about 135 pounds ago. Who, according to John Westall, I was on that freshman, didn't really get a chance to play, and I was hoping to sub for Quint Spitzer or anybody at all. And I do remember a University of Christian, Jacksonville University, an 81-0 game. Was that the one we were talking about? The only good part about that game is I didn't get a chance to play, but there was a drive-in movie theater playing Billy Jack right next door. And I got to watch the whole movie. And the rest of the team looked like Billy Jack had popped in. But in all seriousness, I had asked a lot of the 70s gang here, and I want to introduce a couple of those people here. If you're the first time St. Johners, stand up here real quick. Come on, Diane, Jenna, come on, you guys. Well, I asked all of these guys, Curtis, Keith, I asked them if we could come up with some funny stories so that we could roast a little bit, and they all started laughing and said, well, we got some stories. They weren't funny then, although they are now, but we can't talk about that. But we all did kind of come up with a few ideas. A couple of the girls, Coach Menier also coached a girls' softball team, and the girls at the time eventually, they really did like that, especially when they got to first base and Coach was there because they didn't know when to go to second, but Coach would put that push them on their way. A couple of other things that we had, going back to that 70s crew, the training rules were a little relaxed. It was the late 70s, and we weren't quite as dedicated, maybe, as that Concordia team was. But we played hard. Somebody else had mentioned world history was never better than there was with football follies. We had a pretty good round of those as well. The other thing we had mentioned, the first time I had met Coach Menier was when playing football, but I remember when he was introduced to the congregation for the very first time, and I don't know if anybody else remembers this, any old-timers, Mr. Reese said he did, but if you know now, in September or August, they introduced the teachers for the first time, and I remember they introduced Coach Menier. He stood up in his bright green leisure suit, sashayed up to the front, and all the old ladies at the church were like, ooh, who's that? That's a true story. I remember that. But anyway, Coach Menier, he was a tough guy. I played 1 year for him. That's all I could take. But we do remember some things. But I will say this. I do have a couple of serious things to get to here. But I will say that one of the great things about knowing Coach Menier is that after he graduated, he was a little bit cooler, and he was actually a cool guy who would drink a little Lutheran holy water with you. And has been known to tell an occasional joke. One of my favorites, which I still use to this day, about a farmer and his wife building a fence. It's about as far as I can go, but that's a really good one here. But all that being said, you know, it was a great time when we were here back in the 70s. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of great laughs. There were a couple of guys, I'm subbing, like I said, for Quint Spitzer here. And Quint could not be here. He lives, I think, in New York. Is that right?
Yes.
And so he wanted to read this poem here. And he said, let me just kind of read it here. He said, this is for Dennis. I played for Dennis in 1975 through 1977. And I was co-captain with Doug Ergel. A lot of you, if you remember Doug has recently died of Lou Gehrig's disease in 2007. Became a very great friend of mine. For many years after, and I could tell some Doug Ergel stories. You guys, remember that time when we went to Disney World and he peed on the thing and almost electrocuted himself? And that's just one. But anyway, in all seriousness, Doug and Quint were co-captains on the football team, and so Quint had wrote this, and he wanted me to read it, and I'm going to try to get through it here. It's a poem that Doug he had written about Doug here, and I hate to do this, first time ever in public, but the 51-year-old eyes don't work like these. So anyway, this is for Coach Menier and for Doug Ergel. It says, Captain Doug, restless and thinking of you, imaginings flowing through me, like lightning through the tree, sizzling its way into the ground. These restless images honed by years of affection drought set off now by a woman yet met, whose eyes follow my wanderings. Needy and restless after news from afar, grief tracing back the years, to a day when two young lads stood strong and conquered their world. Now one lives on while the other is gone, wrenched too soon from his life. The hero that was my friend, finally able to run after years bound. His own grief now vanquished, souls free to fly from the wreckage of the wasted flesh that was home, a spirit that can now smile. Farewell, O Captain, who helped me lead fierce young warriors in boyhood battle. Victorious we were then, no less so now. Light reigns in my heart, knowing pain has fled. So anyway, in all seriousness, too, I've gotten to know Dennis after many years, and just working, and kind of like what Mickey had said, and Mr. Reese as well. I worked with Coach Minier on our church council, board of directors, and came to really respect him as a man, as a coach. I was scared to death of him. But over the years, I've gotten to know him, and he's a better man than he is a coach. He's just a super, not that he's a bad coach, but a really good, honorable Christian man, and that's why we're here for all the things that he's done. So thank you, Coach, and thank you all very much.